Are you an immigrant looking for a better recipe for living your ultimate American dream journey? Did you come to America to escape persecution? Or as a tourist, a student, for employment, and found America a welcoming place? Or did you make a conscious decision to relocate for a new experience and opportunities? Whatever the case, you have a story. Are you ready to tell yours and have it recorded in the pages of history for your posterity and the world? Was your decision to live in America the best decision you've ever made? These stories and more on this podcast dedicated to you, the modern explorers to America. We feature amazing navigators weekly to share their story, their journey, their challenges and successes, with one goal of helping you to fast track and live your best American dream journey. So what's your navigating story? And now, here is your host, Bassie Simon, with this episode's featured guest, ready to tell their navigating story.
Hello, Nadvigators. Thank you for listening to the Nadvigators podcast today. I am so thrilled to bring you the concluding portion of the navigating journey of Dr. Hector Grajeda. After graduating from medical school in Mexico City, Dr. Grajeda, with his wife and young family, migrated to the United States around 2000. His journey took him through Puerto Rico, a place he admitted he did not know existed as a territory of the United States, from 2000 to 2005, where he completed his pediatric residency. Dr. Grajeda is currently a pediatrician with Cook's Children's Hospital in Fort Worth, Texas. He finds joy in what he does and in working with the families he has helped over the years. Dr. Grajeda believes there is no better specialty to practice medicine than as a pediatrician, especially for the population he has chosen to focus his practice on. He finds joy in knowing that what he is doing will have a lasting impact on the lives of the children for generations to come. That joy is what keeps him going every day. In this episode, we will have the opportunity to hear some of his timely wisdom for those who are just starting out or who may be struggling to find or define their own path to success in living their own American dream. Go to episode 9 if you haven't had the opportunity to listen to part 1 of Dr. Grajeda's story, and listen to the first part of his story there. Now let's get on with the rest of the story. Other thing that I would like you to shed light on is that what are some of the prejudices that you had to deal with? Because I understand from my readings and listening to news and talking to people, I have come to understand that sometimes the American doctors seems to maybe don't really look at doctors that came from other countries as if they had the same level of knowledge. Is that a true thing, or is just one of those things that people hear and and people just run with it?
My personal experience has not been that. I don't know. I guess it depends a lot on you and the way you perceive things.
Okay.
I usually don't pay attention to those things. I just do the job and make sure that I do the job as expected, right? That the quality of my work is going to be par with what it is expected, right?
Okay.
There's something called standard of care, and that's like the minimum. Oh, that's what we need to do. And if somebody doesn't, it doesn't matter where the person is from. Could be an American. When that person is not doing things right, then of course the same group that person works in will be like not happy, right?
Right.
And then
so I think so therefore I really think that for this question, what I'm getting out of it for the benefit of the audience is that what when we dwell on negative things, it will consume us. And if we dwell on the positive and do our best and don't worry about what people say, but you do what your best job is, and you will basically get what you're looking for. I mean, you are a very good example of that right here, because you put your best effort out. You didn't worry about maybe people think about that or whatever, but you just do your best. I think that is a very good takeaway here, that people don't have to dwell on the negatives, because negatives usually consume people.
Correct. And as I mentioned before, if your credentials, if your application is amazing, like I remember when I was interviewing, the director, the boss, my final interview with the boss, he had several sheets of paper, including mine.
Uh-huh.
There was a moment where he laid them down, and one of the pages moved up a little bit, and I could see a note on top. And it said in that note, very strong candidate. And it was a person from Mexico, but that person, I happened to know who that was. And the grades of that person were like to the roof, right? I mean, she got like a 98 in one of the tests. And
wow.
in the other one, she got, I don't know, but it was like amazing, right? And those things, of course, they impress anybody. It doesn't matter where you come from, because you took a standardized test, the same test that Americans take, the same test that everybody takes.
Right.
You take the same test. It's not a different test to be certified for an American or a non-American. No, it's the same test, right?
Wow.
It must have the same kind of knowledge. So
right.
when you do well and your work reflects it, then of course the respect comes afterwards.
Right.
If before that they didn't know, well, then once you prove it, it has been proven. There is no need to be like repeating it. No.
Right.
Unless you move to a different place and you have to prove yourself again, right?
Right.
But it happens in every aspect of life, not just medicine, right?
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think we've talked enough about your profile and who you are, what you do. You've shed a lot of light here on things that people should think about, and I think this will be wonderful. So
let me add one more thing.
Yes, please.
And this is after you already did med school, right? Like let me share you a few other details. Like when I was already in the residency, remember we were my wife, me, and 4 children.
Right.
And the pay is not good. We get paid very little. So my wife did miracles during that time, right? It was a very tight money-wise time. I could not afford like having a cell phone. I had to bring my own food to the hospital because I could not afford buying food at the restaurants that were outside. Okay. Our eating out, right, for the family was Burger King about once a month. Okay. I remember that one of my own kids wrote a letter saying that he remembered the birthday of his little brother.
Mm-hmm.
His birthday was his cake was actually a cupcake,
mm-hmm.
and his gifts were little toys from McDonald's. But he remembered those with love, right? So we got a loan during my residency. It was a small loan. It was $2,500, but it was so hard to pay back. It was so difficult. Okay.
Wow.
But we did. Okay. So tough times, but wonderful, right? They don't have to be bitter. The other thing is we helped somebody else by getting a phone line for that person. At the end, we got in trouble for that. So you don't use your credit to help somebody else. Or you must be sure, totally sure, that that is very well taken care of, right?
Right.
And the people, the hospital where I studied is called my residency was the University Pediatric Hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Best place in the Caribbean. Awesome place. My teachers were really, really, really awesome. The best, right? And I love them. And I will forever be thankful to them. During that time of my residency, we enjoyed it a lot. Despite the economic difficulties, it was a great, great time. Beautiful place, beautiful people. Now, my goal was to become a specialist, right? I was going to be a hematologist, oncologist. But my friends, right? Help from friends. They told me that in the United States, they didn't want specialists. They wanted, the need was for primary care doctors. So my goal of being the chief resident and then doing a specialty changed so that we're able to remain in this country. And I stayed as a primary care physician. By the end of my senior year, I was contacted by a job recruiter. That's a person who is looking for doctors to work in a certain place. Right? Mm-hmm. It seems like doctors are hard to come by. So places hire somebody who finds a doctor for them. Right?
Wow.
This person contacted me, and that's how I got my first interview and my first job in South Texas. With that, more things happened because I had to change my visa again. And of course, each time I did that, there were many, many, many expenses related to the visa. Immigration lawyers, they are very expensive. And then
they are.
Yeah. And then I had to do the re-verification of my credentials. So I had to go through the headache of the Red Cross again and name companion that didn't want to help me that good. All the things like that. It was hard. Okay. And then waiting for my new visa that this time was J1B. J1B, which is a working visa.
Right.
It took 6 months in which I couldn't work, but there were many expenses. We had to ship boxes from Puerto Rico to Texas. We had to pay for flights. We had to pay a car rental, the rent, the deposit of an apartment, buying some car to be able to move, new visas for the whole family, the Texas medical license, taking another test, the USMLE Step 3, being certified by the American Academy of Pediatrics, being certified by the American Board of Pediatrics, my DA license, my DPS license, all that, right?
All required money, isn't it?
Yes, of course. And from no debt, in 6 months, I owed about probably close to $50,000 in
wow
debt, right? So it was terrible. But then finally I started working, and then things changed dramatically after years of effort and changes. And after a few years of work, then we applied for a different kind of visa, and then we became permanent residents, which is, again, lawyers, more expenses, checks, and all that. But so far, has been such a great ride. We have enjoyed it a lot. We have had many, many great things that have happened along the way, and we have been abundantly blessed by God.
Okay, so I was just saying that's really a great story right there. I think that's a good segue for us to go into the last part of the profile, the discussion. So this is a section where I would just ask you a couple of questions, and you could respond as short as you want, as long as you want. I mean, it's perfectly fine. But it's more of basically looking back and looking forward, and so that this information can also help the audience, people listening to your story. Again, this is wonderful because that's why I said we all have amazing stories, unique ones, because if I never talked to you, I would never thought that you had to deal with all of these things. You know, it's interesting that sometimes we see people, we just see from the outside, and we just don't know how people got to where they are. And it's always very intriguing for me to just get to know people, like just know how you went through all of these things, just like everybody else, you know. But it's almost like when people are looking at people who are successful, which you are in all respects, but they always look at, well, he is doing this now, he is so rich, is this, that. But I always forget that there were periods of scarcity, that you had to do certain things to move forward, you know. So I think this is very enlightening, and I'm sure people would really appreciate these kind of stories, because sometimes people can lose focus because it's like, well, I don't even know if I'm going to make a headway or not. So, but I guess one of the things I'm getting out of your discussion here is that you stayed focused on what you wanted to do.
Yes.
So I believe this is something that is useful for everyone, because sometimes we seems to go every direction. Everybody seems to go a different direction. They hear about this particular kind of field that is working very well. People are making money there. They start running over there, and you hear this part, and tomorrow, okay, that is not working anymore. You start running there. So it's like you're not really becoming authority as in your area, in one field, and people don't know you that way. So it's hard to scale your expertise and really get things out of it. So your story really illustrates that being focused, it's very, very important as part of your journey here.
You need to be focused, but not only that, you need to make all the efforts that are required to get there, right? Efforts and sacrifices. I forgot to mention about the other big help support group that we had, which was church, right? We have been members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for a long time. And every time we get to a new place, even being totally new like Puerto Rico, with no relatives, with no friends, with nobody there, just by being members of the church, we already have a group. As I told you, we arrived on a Saturday. We attended church Sunday. And Sunday, we already had a bunch of friends. We were invited to eat in the house of one of them. That same day, many people were making phone calls and answering and calling back. And finally, that same Sunday at nighttime, we already had a furnished house where we were going to live. And it was owned by one of the members of the church. And it was great. They were great people. They treated us well since the very beginning. So my wife, she had a group of friends, like since first day there, Sunday. She was surrounded. I remember very clearly by the end of church, my wife was surrounded by 6 women, all of them talking and making her feel welcome, right? And they already had plans for this activity for the kids. So many things that happened just because we were active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that's a big thing. Same thing happened when we arrived to South Texas. Never been there, no relatives there. But we went to church and we had friends like almost instantly. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Same thing when we moved to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have relatives here. But we arrived, we had some friends that we met in Puerto Rico. We stayed with them in their house. We drove around looking for what was going to be our place. And then we attended church and we got a bunch of more friends. So, great thing.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it initially about one of the guests that I interviewed, where she actually mentioned something about finding your community, because that community would really help you in times of need. In your case, you walk into a community that you already had, which exists already, and you were fully welcome, you were embraced, and people were willing to share. So I think one thing that is important is that it's good to find a community that you belong. I mean, they always say no man is an island, right? And it's a good thing. I will reserve my own story about finding a community till the time that I get interviewed. Hopefully somebody would interview me too. But, finding that community is very, very critical, and it helps in transitioning and integrating into the society very well.
You're listening to the Nadvigators Podcast, Navigating the American Dream with Bessie Simon. For more information on today's show, be sure to check out the show notes and resources at nadcast.com.
So let me ask you one question here, which this is more like a funny thing, depending on how you look at it. Well, let me give you a quick story so that you can think about what I'm going to ask. So the question I'm going to ask you is that what is the one annoying question, for example, that you got asked by an American when you first got here, okay? Or what is the one thing that one of your comical moments, basically either you found out about it later in your journey and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe that I knew I did that, right? And or some question that is kind of became annoying to you. Let me give you an illustration of that with a simple one here. So when I first came, we got here in 1997, and one of the people in this community that I talked about, and they were very curious about us because, of course, we came from Nigeria. We spoke English, and they kept saying, "Where did you learn English?" I keep asking me, "Where did you learn English?" And then somebody even said something like, "How did you get to United States? How did you get here?" I didn't get it. I didn't get offended because I knew that they didn't know either. They were just curious or they were just naive about it. So in some of the answers, if somebody was asking me something like, "How did you get there?" I would just jokingly say, "Hey, there's Atlantic Ocean. I just swim across it." And that would kind of deflate everything out. Everybody just start laughing, and then we just kind of talked about it, So I'd like to hear some of those funny situations, either comical ones that you found out for yourself, or maybe somebody asked you and you just shake your head and leave. What are some of those times?
Well, I don't have like a specific question that bothers me, but there's one thing that I don't like, and it is when people complain about foreign people using whatever kind of service or people they get from the government of the United States.
Right.
But I remember of my 4 children, one of them, number 3, he was born in Arizona. that was the time that I was studying for the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And when my wife was pregnant, we got her enrolled in a program so that she was able to attend different meetings with a obstetrician.
Mm-hmm.
And I will have to pay a lump sum, right? A certain amount of money. I forgot how much it was, but it was close to $2,000, something like that. Okay. But by paying that, she will receive prenatal care and it will cover the delivery. Okay. And I remember when we started attending the visits, the prenatal visits, there were people there. They will actually insist that we use this other service and this other service and this other service because all of them were for free. And even we could stop using the one we got enrolled in and getting a different one that was free.
Mm.
And they will insist, they will be pushy about it. And I remember my wife rejecting it, saying like, no, thank you. No, thank you. We are happy with the program we got enrolled. We are happy to pay whatever the amount was. And we don't want this, we don't want that, we don't want that, right? So I think that's something that most people don't know, that many of those things are actually pushed. Whoever is the representative of that program, I don't know what is the motivation of pushing it. I don't know if it's really out of the heart, right, to help people, or they receive some grant, or I don't know, right? But I remember that those things happen. And of course, there are plenty of people who, you want to give me something? Yes, give it to me.
Yeah.
It didn't happen with us. And a question that I get often is, where did I learn English? But
you get that too?
Yeah, of course. And I explained that in Mexico we study it as a second language.
Right. Well, in my case, actually, we study English is the primary language for instructions everywhere. It's the official language. And it's interesting. In fact, one of the segments that we will have on this platform would be, we will actually invite some Americans to actually come talk to us about why they think the way they do. I mean, I think it would be interesting to find out what it is that they also have it think about, So it would be nice to learn about that. So it seems like you've really fully integrated into the society. You've done everything you needed to do. You, as they say, you've paid your dues, right? You went through all kind of things. So, but there is one question here. So, what is one thing that you think that one of the things that you've learned here, that if you were given opportunity to be the president of Mexico one day, what is one thing that you would like to take back to Mexico that would help your people? Assuming there is that one thing, what is that one thing that you think you would take back there?
Wow. I love my country, and my heart aches when I see what's going on in my country.
Right.
When I hear about my country not being a safe place to go, about all the criminality and all the bad things that happen and all those things. If there was a way to actually get rid of corruption, which is so hard, right? Because in this country there is corruption too.
Right.
It's not even close to the level that it happens in my country, right? So if there was a way to fight that and like promote honesty as a way of living. And another big thing that I have thought many times is people like things, and quite often people are not happy because they concentrate so much in what they lack.
Yeah.
If there was a magical way to change that way of thinking, right?
You swing your magic wand.
Emphasize about teach the children to be happy, not to look for things, right? It's like be happy on the way, on the road. As I told you, we had many difficulties. We faced many difficulties during our journey, but the journey was amazing. We enjoyed it all the way. The hard times and the beautiful times, those were great, right? So people learn to be happy on the journey and not concentrate on what they are lacking.
Right.
There was a way to make advertising about that. It's like, hey, we need to be happy. We need to change our way of thinking, right? And so those things, we could teach people to be happy, and we could teach people to be honest, right? Not corrupt. Those things will change any country.
That's true. Wow. That's a good one too for me to ask you the next question, which we're getting to the end of this interview. It seems like we don't want it to end because you have so much wisdom to share here. Well, let's turn to our children for a second. The children sometimes may be torn between the culture of America and the culture. I'm sure you try to teach some of your culture, which is not very different from here, but there's still a lot of differences. Now, are there certain behaviors that are specific to this country that you hope that your children don't embrace as well? I mean, although they are part of here, but you just hope that if I have a way to change this and they don't pick on those, I would really be happy, man. There's some of those.
Well, I think there are many behaviors that I didn't want my children to pick from Mexico.
Of course.
And it is the same here, right? Because like in Mexico, we know that most people are like, they love football, they like to drink and party, right? So those prototypes, I don't like those prototypes, right?
Right.
The prototype that I really like, is that Mexicans are hard workers. That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. And
that is definitely true.
And family center, right? Families are strong. So those things I like. And just like I try to teach my children in Mexico and in here about good values, right? So I don't want them to catch any kind of thing that is wrong. So what I teach them is a conservative way, right? Family values, right? Family is very, very important. I teach them to work hard. Make sure that when you work the time that you are supposed to work. You work hard. You do what is expected and more, right? You take good care of your work, and you always are honest, right? But also, we have taught our children to be nice to other people, to be good neighbors, to be good citizens, to be polite with everybody, to help others whenever they have the chance to help, to attend church every Sunday. And God must be a core part of their beings, of their lives.
Wow. Thank you so much. So I have two more questions and then we'll be done. So first question is that, what is something that, of all the journey that I know you've lived in two places and you came here as an adult. So what is something that you don't take for granted at this point, based on all your experiences?
I don't take for granted almost anything, right? My wife, my family, my health, my work, nothing. I understand that every one of them are huge blessings. I have seen lives that disappear in a moment, right?
Right.
In a moment. So your life is quite often we take it for granted. We think tomorrow I will do this, but we don't know if tomorrow will be here.
That's so
Family
true.
destroyed, but I always try, I always strive to be a better husband and a better father. Right? And work, I know that work can change in a moment, right? So I always try to be the best pediatrician, right? I like to serve the people well. I treat everybody the same, right? I don't make differences by any ways. I treat always everybody the same way.
Okay. Well, this is the final question here, and this question is basically you. I know you've given us a lot of really great nuggets of advice for us to think about, and for the audience that will be listening to this to think about. And so you just take this time and basically kind of give us like a grand summary of everything. One to two things, or three that you really want to impart as a parting advice here for people, be it in the medical field or whatever endeavors that people get involved, and just so that we can just part with that. And before you do that, I just want you to also think about this other thought. I mean, I know it's almost like cliche saying this, but it's because I really feel like what the answer would be. But I just want you to kind of, in your own words, was this the best decision you ever made in your life? I mean, to actually take this journey, as hard as it was in the beginning. So would you classify this as one of the best decisions that you ever made? And then you can give us your final three thoughts. And if you have a list of books, I mean, whether self-development or whatever that you want to share, you could just also share those pieces of information, and then we'll be done.
Okay, thank you. Well, in general, what I can say is find out what is it that you want to do. Find out, investigate what is it that you need to do to get it, and then start working on it, right? Don't leave it for later or for the time when things are good, right? You start working right away and start doing things. And if you have to change your lifestyle or your place of living to make it happen, make it happen, right? It will be hard. It may take you a few steps back before it takes you forward, but that's okay. It's worth it. Remember that not knowing has a cost, so you must be prepared. You must investigate and remember the things that are important. Remember that God is number one. It's so important. You must give God its place always in your life, because He will guide you. I do know that. Okay, I know that the life of my family has been guided thanks to God. Teach that to your children, and of course, not only believe in God, but also be involved in your church, because they will be such a huge help. I heard many years ago an African say that says it takes a village to raise a child, right?
It does.
And I do strongly believe that our village is church, and that is like the best village ever. The other thing is, when it's time to work, you must work hard. hard. You need to take care of your work and be honest. Now, has this been my best decision in my life? No, not the best, but it's in the top, probably top 5. Okay. I think the best decision in my life was marrying my wife. Okay. There are 3 things that are so important in life: God, who you marry to, and the line of work that you will do for the rest of your life. Okay. So faith is paramount, very, very big, and you must grow with it. And if you are barely starting, it doesn't matter. Let it grow. Who you marry to, that is so important, because that wife, that husband is going to be with you all the rest of the way. At least that's the way it should be. And that person will be with you in your ups and downs and your difficult times, and you will grow together. And number 3, the kind of job that you decide to do. Remember, if you live to be 100 and you start working at 20, well, that will be 80 years of work. Or depends if you retire at 60 or 70. Okay, that's if you work from 20 to 70, that's 50 years of your life. And you better choose something that you enjoy, right, that you like.
Right.
So those are important decisions, very important. They will shape the rest of your life.
Hello, Nadvigators. You have been listening to the Navigating story of Dr. Hector Grajeda. A big thank you to Dr. Hector Grajeda for sharing your story with us. This has been a fascinating insight into what life was like for you as you began your American journey. You shared quite a nugget of knowledge for others that may be in the beginning stages of their own journey. There is a common theme that seems to resonate with every navigators in their journey. Behind every success, there are often an equal number of failures, frustration, and challenges that must be overcome. Dr. Grajeda's story captured each of these turning points. Navigators, be sure to check out all the resources Dr. Grajeda provided, especially if you are interested in pursuing a career in the medical field, or if you already earned a medical degree in your country and you are wondering if you could practice in the United States. The answer is a resounding yes, and evident in Dr. Grajeda's story. Be sure to check the resources section of the show notes or at nadcast.com/resources for the list of resources as mentioned during this episode. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope you found some inspiration from Dr. Grajeda's story today in helping you find success in your own navigating journey. Remember, you have your own unique navigating story, and here at the Nadvigators Podcast, we believe that you should share your story with the world. I'll be honored to be your partner in sharing that unique story here on the Nadvigators Podcast. I tell every story, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is easy to get started. Send an email to me at guest@natcast.com to get the ball rolling. For now, I want you to share this episode with your friends and family or other navigators that you may know. There are several avenues to share on the Navigators YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe while you're there, okay? Also, leave a comment on the Facebook fan page, or you can leave a comment directly on our website at natcast.com. That is NADCAST.com. And be sure to bookmark the Nadvigators Podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We are available on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. When you find a podcast, subscribe to be notified of new episodes of inspiring stories, and don't forget to share with your friends and family. For now, I am Bassi Simon, your host and Captain Nadvigator, signing off until the next episode where I bring you another fascinating Nadvigator story. Remember this, none of us is smarter than all of us, and don't forget to help someone on your way up.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Nadvigators Podcast, Navigating the American Dream with Bassi Simon. For more information about our stories, our guests, or how to get involved and share your Nadvigating story, head over to our website at nadcast.com. That's NADCAST.com for more information. Continue the conversation on Facebook.com/Nadvigators. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or on your favorite podcast listening platform so others can find us and enjoy the show too.